When you think of Albanians, you might picture a bunch of mean-looking mafia-involved people who only drive Mercedes or Volkswagen Golf. But despite the tough appearance, they're some of the friendliest, most family-oriented people you'll ever meet. Family always comes first. You mess with one of them, they'll come back with 25 of their cousins to beat the hell out of you. There's a great saying about Albania that goes like this: Albanians only work with white powders, sugar for pastries, flour for the bakeries, and the famous nose powder for the business, if you know what I mean. One thing that stands out is their love for their homeland. In fact, they're so proud, they think everyone's Albanian. Dua Lipa, Albanian. John Cena, Albanian. Every person on earth, definitely Albanian, except the Serbs. And their flag is dope as hell. They're proud of their heritage, love their Greek neighbors, and, well, don't bring up Serbia at dinner table. It's a small, like ridiculously small. Everyone there is rich, loves skiing, and the whole place is basically a giant store selling tobacco, airsoft guns, and booze. They don't make anything down there. Well, what do you expect? The country is the size of Washington, D.C. So the rent is insane, everything's owned by a handful of rich families, and cars are obnoxiously loud thanks to the modded exhausts. But hey, you'll never run out of gas. There are more gas stations than grocery stores. Austria is basically Germany 2.0. Or you could say a weird mix between rural Germany and Switzerland, but with more beautiful mountains and friendlier people. And they took the already ridiculously hard German language and made it even harder. They always start something and then blame Germany for it. They're a bunch of beer-chugging, lederhosen-wearing, nuts German people who are really into skiing, hiking, and they complain all the time. They also have weird-looking pancakes and schnitzel. Austria gave us Arnold Schwarzenegger. They love the man so much, they named a stadium after him, because they couldn't name it after their most famous citizen. And also Christoph Waltz, who is the second Austrian to rise to fame because of being a Nazi. And also a mediocre painter who lived in 20th century. They don't care about the sound of the music, and no, they don't have any kangaroos in Austria. Every Belarusian loves potatoes. They love it so much that their neighbors call them potato people. They're very enduring. Although they've been through a lot, they don't make a fuss about it. Also, Belarusians are very hospitable people. If you pay a visit, they'll overfeed you to the point of explosion, and despite some might think, Belarus is absolutely safe and clean. They're a nation of pessimistic beer addicts who need copious amount of alcohol to speak to other people. They like to complain about the weather, the traffic, and especially public transport, all while driving their hybrid BMW X5 company car to their well-paying jobs. Speaking of driving, they're terrible drivers and they hate cyclists. As for making friends, you'll have a hard time making good friends with Belgians, and you'll remain on their outer circle until you've bullied your way in. And on the food side, ask them if they're hungry. They'll look at their watches. They put mayo over fries, they love to eat tuna with peaches, and they have the best chocolate around the world. When it comes to the Flemish and Walloons, they don't agree on much except on football and cycling. And finally, about the weather, they never dress for it. You could see them go around in shorts in February. Bosnians are stubborn, blonde people who are very cheerful and drive Volkswagen Golf. They always crack some jokes to make you laugh and are very hospitable. The Bosnian dream is to own a big 18-wheeler truck someday. Their government is corrupt and people are very religious. They're a country of yogurt-loving blonde people who are really pessimistic about the government. And I'm serious about the yogurt part. If they get sunburned, they put yogurt on it. The men are rough and bulky and the women are feminine and slim. And if you ask one for a date, if she's nodding her head, in Bulgaria that means, ew, no, you're gonna die alone. And if she's shaking her head, it means that you can take her out tonight for some tarator, which is made out of yogurt. They're a group of chain-smoking know-it-alls who swear a lot. During their coffee breaks, they like to sit in a coffee and order the cheapest coffee there is. The coffee type doesn't matter, as long as it comes out of an espresso machine. After paying about €1.50 for the coffee, they sit for 2.5 hours in the cafe, drink it, smoke, and complain about the government and how terrible life is in Croatia and how they need to change something, but they don't do anything. So their coffee breaks take longer than their working hours. They love football, and to be honest, I'm still impressed with the 2018 World Cup. And every man, woman, and child in Croatia is afraid of this. They're like the Greeks, but with bushier eyebrows and darker hair. Very hospitable and xenophobic at the same time, warm and family-oriented, and also they have beautiful beaches. They wear socks and sandals and fishing vests, drink cheap Czech beer, and complain about everything. Their favorite things are eating schnitzel with bread and go hiking in flip-flops, although they almost always get lost or injured. Maybe that's because they actually don't give a damn about anything. Also, the women are beautiful and they all love Pat and Matt. They're sophisticated, tall, blonde, and drink a lot, and bike everywhere in all weather. They have their lives together and juggle a lot of tasks. Oh, and they put Danish flag everywhere, whether it's a birthday, wedding, or even on a Christmas tree. One crazy thing about this place is that they leave their infants outside in a baby carriage in the dead of cold winter, because they believe it's good for the kids to be left alone on the corner of the street to get some fresh air. Yep, they trust each other like that. Danes and Swedes also have a friendly banter thing going on and roast each other all the time. But overall, it's a peaceful country with chill people and a weird language. Some say it sounds like someone talking with a potato in their mouth. Also, Mads Mikkelsen. They don't like talking to strangers, just like most of Europe, so don't try to make small talk with them. They live for vodka and are often stereotyped as cold, introverted, and yep, you guessed it, alcoholics. But what do you expect? It's freezing outside and vodka keeps them warm. Besides vodka, they love saunas, and a lot of them have a sauna in their house. Finland is the country where people invented the phone just to avoid face-to-face conversations. They value personal space immensely, are chill, and are never in a hurry. They drive very fast but talk very slow, which might remind you of some certain fictional character. And why do they drive so fast? Because there's plenty of empty space and no cops around. Naturally, this has led to the country producing some of the world's best rally drivers. On a quick note, they're big fans of saunas, coffee, and heavy metal. Fun fact, Finland is the global capital of heavy metal. They're also considered tech wizards because they give the world the unbreakable Nokia and Linux. But despite coming across as cold and emotionless, they sure as hell know how to party. And vodka plays a big role in that as well. France is a land of romance, red wine, and lots of stereotypes. Let's start with the classic one. They always wear striped shirts, berets, and thin mustaches with a cigarette dangling from their lips, probably while mumbling something offensive about Americans. Next, hygiene. The stereotype claims that the French hate showers and that French women never shave their armpits. Is there any truth to this? Honestly, the armpit thing feels very outdated. Or is it? Let me know in the comments. Now, about their attitude, the French are often labeled as arrogant, entitled, and rude. And let's be fair, if you had to deal with millions of tourists every year, you might get a little grumpy too. Plus, they talk super fast and absolutely hate it when a foreigner tries to speak French. On the bright side, the French have amazing food. They love cheese, wine, baguettes, croissants, and onions in their dishes. Oh, and foie gras, for those who can afford it. But remember, these are just stereotypes, and a lot of them aren't true. But also, we have the French saying, there is no smoke without fire. So according to you guys, some of them might be true. First off, let's talk about the German stare. If you're out for a walk or ride in a public transit in Germany, you might find some Germans staring into your soul. And it might creep you out at first, and you'd think they're judging you, right? But no, they're just observing. They're probably imagining your life story, how many eggs you ate in the morning, and which of your 3 morning drinks you like the most. Next up, the rules. Germans love rules. They follow them religiously and expect you to do the same. If they see you jaywalk or cut a line, they're gonna melt you with their stares and straight up call you on it. Also, these people are very punctual. They're gonna be there at the exact time you've set for the appointment. What about parties? Let's say you invite them over for 18 o'clock. They're not gonna be there exactly at 18 o'clock. No, more like 18:05. They're not much into small talk, and starting one with them may feel super awkward. When they do want to talk, it's about the weather, and that's it. So as you've probably guessed, not a lot of countries in Europe are into small talk. And about the food, they love their bread, and they throw a huge fuss if anyone dares to say it's not the greatest bread ever. To be fair, it's really good, but they do really get serious about it. They also love football. In Bundesliga, I personally prefer Bayern Munich. Drop down your favorite team in the comments. Every man is depicted as a hairy, fat, lazy person named George or Nick. They're often stereotyped as very loud, money wasters, and obsessed with history. Additionally, they are famous for stealing food recipes from all around and believe that every word has a Greek root. Now you might think that a lot of people hate them, but actually, no one hates the Greeks more than the Greeks themselves. And also, they love their neighbors. Greece has been in an economic crisis for God knows how long, and they owe a significant amount of debt. But despite everything wrong with the economy, they remain chill and seem not to care about it. Again, like a lot of countries in Europe, Hungarians tend to keep to themselves and are less open and friendly if they don't know you. If you go to a shop and say thank you to them in Hungarian, they're gonna keep the change. Instead of a social hierarchy, they have social bubbles. And based on your beliefs, you will find yourself in one of them. Hungary is known for great food, like goulash, pörkölt, and chimney cakes, which will just look awesome. However, their language is considered very hard to learn, and they hate people from Romania and Poland. I didn't find any specific stereotypes about Icelanders, except that they believe in elves. They say Icelanders can be quite mean to each other, but are generally nice to tourists. The food can be a bit unusual though. I mean, they eat fermented shark, smoked puffin, and sheep's head. Interestingly, they're greener than Greenland. Most Icelanders are blonde and blue-eyed, and it's known as one of the most peaceful countries on earth. It's very clean and safe, and they have one of the highest life expectancies amongst countries. Also, the language is very hard. And also Björk and Sigur Rós, which are just my favorites. Ireland is a nation of chancers and storytellers. The Irish are friendly and sociable, especially after some whiskey. They like potatoes, drinking, and like most of Europeans, complaining about the weather. They also have distinct accents. Check out Conor McGregor for reference. The Irish are terrible at planning and can talk about absolutely nothing for a long period of time. There are lots of gingers and Irish girls wear too much makeup. And almost everyone has an Uncle John or Aunt Mary. Interestingly enough, whenever something bad happens to England, they cheer. They avoid direct confrontation, but will complain and moan about issues for months. Their favorite hobby is splitting the G in a pint of Guinness while chatting in a pub. They're all very loud and use hand gestures. Additionally, they're very social and physical, like Cuomo. Occasionally, you may think they're arguing with each other, but actually they're just having a normal conversation. Food is like a religion down there, and they get really pissed off if you do it wrong. If you want to eat, you should set a table and sit down properly. Otherwise, you're an uncivilized idiot to them. They're super hospitable, and if they invite you over, their houses must be clean and they'll have water, coffee, snacks, and everything ready to offer you. And never, ever insult one of their family members in front of them. Italians are patriots, but they're not that unified, except when Azzurri are playing. They're usually very late to everything. Honestly, I'd love to see a German and an Italian try to have an appointment. Despite the French, if you try to speak Italian with them, they'll be like, I just met you, but I love you. Let's be friends forever. And yes, one of the biggest stereotypes is that they all say Mamma Mia, and a lot of them live with their moms, which honestly seems like just part of the culture. Oh, and the mafia, yeah, that's real. And Napoli has a lot of trash. They're also pissed off that they invented pizza, cappuccino, and espresso, only for Americans to make a lot of money out of them. It's a great country, but they don't want anyone to know that. It has a beautiful nature, soaring inflation, fantastic roads, and amazing food. They all hate the government, but follow the law religiously, and they complain a lot. They're obsessed with hockey and have the most beautiful and tallest girls. The nature is absolutely mesmerizing. Seriously, Latvia's forests are stunning. And speaking of forests, if anything grows there, they're picking it. Mushrooms, berries, herbs. The woods are basically supermarkets to them. Mushrooms in particular are a big deal there. Food-wise, they eat rye bread and sour cream with every meal. Plus, they'll pickle anything that fits into a jar. When it's Yanni, they go nuts. They sing and dance, make flower crowns, and eat cheese and drink beer by bonfire. Basically, midsummer is their Super Bowl. They love their saunas, they'll sweat for minutes and then roll in the snow. But weirdly enough, standing between two open windows is like a death sentence. They're welcoming to visitors, but here's something you should remember. Never, ever take the last piece of food. Just don't. No stereotypes, except that Liechtenstein doesn't exist. It's so small that if you're driving and take a wrong turn, you'll totally miss the country. This place is a tax haven with a lot of rich people. Lithuanians really like basketball. It's pretty much the most important thing in their lives. They put ketchup on their pizza because, well, Italians probably do it. Their food is great, usually with potatoes and meat, and they wash it down with Shivitoris extra beer. They often do things wrong and then blame it on Russians and the Polish. Men wear black caps and leather jackets, while women wear small skirts and heavy makeup. Everyone has an iPhone and they're all rich. The stereotype is that Luxembourg is boring and cold. The cold part is true, but boring? Not so much. In Luxembourg, you'll find lakes, castles, museums, hiking trails, and biking tracks. Sure, it rains a lot, but there's still plenty to do. The country is filled with diplomats and bankers, and it's also full of history and culture. Maltese people are very political, bad drivers, and incredibly proud of their island. They're loud, expressive, and the whole country feels like a mini Europe. Doing everything Europe does, but in a smaller, cuter way. The country looks like a boot, and is often considered budget Romania. They produce a lot of wine, but the country is very poor. Moldovans are also the only people in Europe who want to migrate to Romania. Monaco is smaller than a typical town. Everything is expensive and fancy. But if you walk uphill to the French side of the border, everything's half the price. And also they have Formula 1 races there. And Grace Kelly was once the princess. A Montenegrin calls his wife from the yard to bring him antivenom from the house for snake bites. When she asks why, did one bite you? He says, no, but one is coming close real quickly. So that's the stereotype. They're lazy and also cool flag. The Dutch are very tall and blonde, and they speak English very well. If you try speaking their language, they'll acknowledge it and then switch back to English. One stereotype about them is that they're cheap, hence the phrase going Dutch. Personally, I'd prefer if everyone went Dutch. I hate having to insist on paying sometimes. They love the outdoors and are very sexually open. In Amsterdam, everything's legal and they wear their klompen and smoke greens while biking to their home, which has a windmill next to it. Every day they bike to work except when it snows, and then the whole country grinds to a halt. They don't care about the weather warnings until it codes red though. And even then, they'll still ride their bikes if the wind dies down for a second. In every party, everyone eventually ends up standing in the kitchen. They complain about everything even though they have a better quality of life than 99% of the world. They love putting raisins in everything, and you'll always find birthday calendars hanging in the toilet. When it comes to birthdays, they congratulate family members on the birthdays of their relatives, sons, daughters, girlfriends, etc. They say that they don't exist, but if they do, they're warm, friendly, and honest people. Known for their stubbornness, they have a good sense of rhythm and eat everything with chili on top. They're generally perceived as being constantly mistreated by everyone. This place isn't all cold and dark. No, they get at least 2 months of sun. Plus, no matter where you are in Norway, you can see the northern lights all year round, and the midnight sun too. You'd see at least 6 polar bears on your way to the grocery stores. Everyone owns a Tesla, and if you don't approach them first, they'll completely ignore your existence. The men are like Vikings, easily over 6 feet tall, and the women absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. That said, Norwegians are as romantic as an average rock. They spend their free time trekking mountains and skiing, and when it gets really cold and dark, they go home and just watch the slow TV. They're filthy rich, but they go shopping in Sweden and are really proud of their oil money, often chanting about how they could buy Denmark if they wanted to. They have some great metal bands, and a lot of people outside Norway enjoy their music, but they just listen to pop or rock on the radio. No smiles here. They're thrilled when they spot a beaver or a hedgehog, but feel anxious when a stranger talks to them. They work very hard to buy a house, mainly to show it off to their neighbors, yet rarely go on a vacation. If they do, it's usually to Florida, and ironically, they're like the Floridans of Europe. Just pause and read this for a second. They cover their couches with plastic and decorate every room with iridescent shiny wallpaper. Vodka runs through their veins, and everyone's a programmer. Also, you can live there for less than 20k a year. There are some really tough stereotypes about Romania, but some of them are that they're gypsies and criminals, and also there are a lot of BMW drivers. They're very patriotic and hate their country at the same time. Romanians are known for being family-oriented and incredibly hospitable. The country is also famous for its beautiful castles and, of course, vampires, maybe. And also Vlad the Impaler. Vodka, Yushanka, bears, and it snows 365 days of the year. Russians are also very cynical and drink a lot of tea. I mean a lot. And usually with a lemon. They're all masterminds at playing chess and have some great wrestlers. No copyright issues since they pirate anything they want to, and every Russian song is either about tragedies or death. In every city, you see Lenin and Pushkin statues. Their babushkas are really mean, and when it comes to the food, they eat caviar very often and eat ice cream in the winter. And they put mayo on everything, including pizza. The main stereotype about Portugal is that they're sad and melancholic, always longing for the good old days. People lose their minds a bit while driving, and they love sitting by the Atlantic, sipping wine, listening to fado, and watching the sunset. They're hairy, dark-haired, and loud, but also very friendly and hardworking. They love their country in a chill, non-annoying way. They also love Ronaldo. Flags are everywhere and they have top-notch olive oil. Also, every house seems to have 6 Virgin Mary statues for some reason. And they're great at English and football, and also they have Jose Mourinho. Not many stereotypes about this place. I just know that in 2013, this country only had 1 prisoner. It increased to 9 in 2021 though, which is an 800% increase. They're a basketball powerhouse. All Serbian men are heterosexual, and they're very patriotic and independent, and most of them have a great sense of humor. Djokovic and Nikola Tesla were born in there. Serbians love their country, and also Greece and Romania. They also have a great bean soup and love drinking rakia. It's a very quiet country. They're deeply connected to nature and agriculture, and have a lot of cultural similarities to Finland. They like drinking, and the most famous stereotype about them is that they're envious and try to bring you down. People who are from there, tell me if that's true or not. They have really welcoming people, and some of their neighbors call them names because of the westernization of their country. This place has amazing caves and forests, and the government is pretty much corrupt. Spanish people love it when a foreigner tries to speak their language. They're very loud and passionate, especially when it comes to football. They swear a lot, and Spanish curses are so complex and deep that if a Spanish person curses you, you'd have to think about it for a minute or two, and it hits hard. So awesome curse words. Any public mishap from a celebrity or a politician, no matter how small, will be memed into oblivion and become part of the national psyche forever. As for meals, they eat dinner from 8 to 11 p.m., which I think is both weird and awesome. At least they're present while eating, and not watching Netflix or something. And yes, they always arrive late for everything. Also, there are a lot of barking dogs everywhere, especially in countryside. And instead of they use They have some weird chefs, eat nothing but lutefisk and meatballs. All the women play volleyball and all men ski or play hockey. They're really good at English, the country is very clean and well organized. The 2 goats, Ingrid and Ingmar Bergman, are from Sweden. Also the band ABBA. They're educated and could be seen as unfriendly and cold because they value their personal space. But overall, I believe they have one of the best infrastructures in all of Europe. They also have midsummer festivals, not like the movie, but nicer festivals. The country is very clean and people drink a lot of coffee, and I got tired of repeating this phrase for every damn country in Europe, but they have beautiful women there. Neutral, beautiful mountains, chocolate, Swiss knives, and gnomes. They have a crazy good quality of life and put aromas on everything. You can't hear noise after 10 p.m. If heard, they'll call the police immediately. On 1st of August, they put Swiss flags everywhere and watch fireworks. Hiking and skiing isn't an option. It's mandatory. And they all have a military gun in their closet with no ammunition. If someone else does, well, that's their business. Just kidding. Call the police. Fondue and raclette are serious business, they're very structured and are masters of planning things in advance. But there always needs to be a reason for a party or celebration. It's never just, hey, let's have a party. No, the question must be asked, but for what? Why? Whenever they go abroad, the first thing they do is to go to a Swiss restaurant and eat. They're very impatient when things don't work out the way they want to. They'll tell you that their English is just okay, and then later you find out that they stayed half a year in Canada and read Shakespeare in their free time, and also give presentation on compliance. Everybody has a house or their aunt or somebody else they know in the mountains. And finally, they're just as punctual as Germans, if not even less so. It has very cold winters and they love their folk music. They're resilient people and have a weird president. People take their families seriously and they're kind and very generous. Their national dishes are salo and borscht, and they rarely smile. And because of all the tragic things that have been going on there for the past few years, they kind of have no reason to. They like tea, they're very polite, and they say sorry a lot. Their politeness seems really off to people from other parts of Europe, and they're obsessed with keeping a lawn. One of the classic stereotypes about them is having bad teeth, and they're absolutely crazy about football and have the best league in my opinion. There are just so many great teams. The other common stereotype of them being classy and sipping tea may not be true anymore. You only have to go into a city center after 12 a.m. to see the true British culture of swearing, drinking, and fighting take full effect. They have the full English, beans on toast, crumpets, chicken tikka masala, and roast dinner. They also love chips, so every household up north owns a chip fryer. The Welsh people have a calming or a sing-songy accent, and they also have a dope flag and something sheep. The Scottish love haggis and iron brew. If the Scottish want to eat something, they first dip it into butter and then deep fry it. They're also very angry people and get insulted when they're labeled as British. Also, men wear kilts. For Northern Ireland, just check out the Ireland segment. It's the smallest country where the Pope lives, and there are 2.27 popes per square mile.